exciting game for all of us at Clemson to have a top 10 team coming to Clemson in December. It's something I talked about a year ago, or more than a year ago, when we got the game. I thought it was really significant. I think somebody said something about maybe it's only happened 5 times, and so that speaks to how rare this really is. You know, I'm very appreciative of Sean agreeing to play the game, at least today, because they're very talented, and certainly want to see a lot of orange in the stands. Great team. Sean's a really good coach. Really respect the way he runs his program, the way they play. Got great guards. 5th-year senior Mark Lyons at the point. You know, really good shooter, but a guy who plays with great passion and energy. Solomon Hill, really talented wing player. Nick Johnson. I mean, great guards. They can really shoot, drive it, multi-dimensional. And then they've got, you know, a trio of inside guys that are young, that are very talented players that are going to be really good, and a lot of us will watch them at the next level. He just, you know, well coached. They played very well defensively, aggressive offensively, and playing with a lot of confidence. So it'll be, you know, a game much like Gonzaga in terms of, you know, 2 top 10 teams that our team gets a chance to compete against.
It seemed like when the guys, we asked them about last year and everything, the number one thing that came to their mind was speed. Is that going to be that way this year? Is that confessed?
Oh, they're fast. You know, they're fast at a lot of positions. They're, you know, there aren't many weaknesses, and that's why they're a top 10 team. I mean, they just, you know, they shoot it well. They guard you. Not the only thing they've done that I'm sure Sean is upset about is they've turned it over a little bit more than he would like. But they play the game the right way. They run some motion. They run some sets. Move the ball. Share it, guard at a really high level, very, you know, in really good position defensively all the time, hard to score against them. And, you know, just for that standpoint, it'll be another good experience for our guys to play a team like this.
They gave it up like 27 times in the night against Southern Miss. Do you maybe take some things Southern Miss was doing defensively?
Not as much. You know, Southern Miss plays all zone. They play zone all the time. And so they, you know, they got them confused with a couple of things. And you always have games like that, as you know, during seasons where, you know, sometimes you're just a little confused, or you don't make a couple plays, or it seems like it's one of those nights and you kind of get into it. I think what's more impressive of all that, as poorly as they played for a large portion of that game, is they still won. You know, won the game kind of going away, and I think that speaks to how well they defend. You know, and again, that's things that I look at, is when you guard like that, it gives you chances to win, even when you don't play very well on offense. And they just had one of those games where they just couldn't get into a good rhythm. Certainly Southern Miss had something to do with that, but, you know, again, they play zone all the time, and that's, you know, a big difference than just trying to play it a little bit.
How difficult is it to get a team like this on the schedule, even for a home and home?
Unbelievably difficult, because if a team's this highly ranked, there's all kinds of people that want to play them, and you know, hopefully we get to the point where we're a top 25 team, and people are looking for us for big games. But it's really hard. You know, there's only about 3 or 4 games a year that guys at this level are playing in home and homes. You play in a tournament, you play some guarantee games at home to fill your home schedule, then you play 3 or 4 of these games. Sometimes those are a rivalry game like South Carolina for us. There's an ACC Big Ten Challenge game. So now you're down to 1 or 2 games really to schedule. And, you know, what do you do with those games is kind of the question. And, you know, again, so now you're really talking about looking at teams to be able to do that with. Your pool gets smaller and smaller. Make the dates work, the travel to work. You know, really for both of us, this isn't ideal. I mean, I'm sure he's not excited this week about coming all the way over here to play this game. And last year when we were traveling all the way out there to do the same, you know, it's a long way to go for one game. But, you know, certainly Sean and I have a friendship and have known each other for a while. And so, again, I'm grateful that he agreed to play it.
In this era of the 18-game conference schedule, is something like this almost going to become extinct?
I don't think it'll become extinct. It's just rare. And it becomes really challenging for you as coaches to make these things work, to make the dates work. You know, we talked a little bit about everybody gets locked into certain things. We're locked into South Carolina. You're locked into an ACC Big Ten Challenge. You go play in a tournament somewhere. This year for us, Orlando. You know, you have finals weeks that have to that have to match And so that makes it work. So there are just so many other little factors that make these games a little more difficult than people realize, that they don't happen as much.
Last year, I'm sorry.
From a coaching perspective, one of the things you always hear about Sean's teams is that they play hard, and I mean, I've always respected that when you hear that about the coach. From your perspective, what goes into that? What happens that
Makes teams play hard.
Yeah.
Well, I think as a coach, you have to preach it. You know, I think sometimes you recruit some guys that other people might not. That maybe, you know, I think toughness is a talent. Playing hard is a talent. I don't think everybody plays hard. And so sometimes you might either put some guys in the game that are on your team, or you might recruit some guys that other people might not recruit in some ways because you value that skill, that talent. And then I think some of it's just, you know, it's the way you approach things, the way you practice, it's your style. It's what your players know is going to get them more minutes out on the court, or take them out of the game for not doing things that are, you know, that way. It's kind of what you value. And so I think those are a bunch of factors with it.
Safe to assume Milt's done everything you've asked of him so he can play outside?
Yeah, he's been fine, and, you know, had a good week. We're moving forward.
Their quickness on the perimeter, if I remember last year, that was a real challenge throughout that game. Just having like Filer and Harrison maybe accustomed you guys.
Might help a little,
you know.
I watched the game and all those kinds of things. You know, we didn't play very well in the game out there. Offensively, we missed a bunch of shots around the basket that you have to make. You know, you just have to make those shots, especially against a team like Arizona, because you don't get as many good ones. We got a few good ones and didn't finish very many of them, and that leads to transition. And you know, and then certainly their speed and their ability. You know, Solomon Hill with his ability to dribble and pass for a three-man is unique. That's, you know, that's a next step for KJ McDaniel. He's not really ready to like bring the ball down full speed and make great decisions and do all the things that you want. And there's a lot of guys that don't have players that can do that. Solomon Hill can do that. He can dribble, you know. And he actually played some four last year for them, so it was like a four-man at times. This year they're playing bigger. They still go small every once in a while, if you call Solomon Hill small. But because of his ability to transition with the basketball and multiple guys bring it, puts pressure on your defense, no doubt.
Is Harrison now, I see he's going to start in place?
Probably start, depending on how the next couple practices go. You know, I always tell you guys I'm not as worried about a guy starting as some of you guys are, as evidenced by what just happened. We had a guy who's starting leave. So, you know, it's more like where are the minutes in the game, where's finishing. To me, some of that is more important. Sometimes we get in a rhythm and we start guys because of rhythms and those kinds of things. But certainly DeMarcus, Adonis, you know, either one of those two probably would be the next two logical to start. Probably leaning towards DeMarcus right now.
But is Harrison, in other words, as time goes on, regardless of start or situation, is he now more of a 2 than maybe more of that 3?
Not necessarily. I think he, you know, again, he's more of a, in our system, the way we play, I don't think that matters really whether you're 2 or 3. You know, the one thing that he's big enough to be KJ's backup to guard other, you know, somebody else has got to guard Solomon Hill sometimes. And DeMarcus is the next guy who's got size to do that. Obviously, Jordan Roper can't do that. Rod could probably do it a little bit, maybe Adonis a little bit, but, you know, those guys are certainly a lot smaller, and so you want a bigger guy to be able to help guard those kinds of situations.
Those 15 minutes per game that TJ was averaging, I guess some of those go to Harrison, and then Filer. Who are the other candidates?
I think it's all, I mean, Filer, Roper, and Harrison. And then, you know, I don't know, like, I don't know what Rod's averaging minute-wise right now. KJ's averaging minute-wise right now. You know, they're playing a lot of minutes already. You know, those guys really, I don't know if they're ready to play much more than 30 in a game. Now, they'll play more than 30 in certain games, but as young players, you know, there are times those guys aren't ready for all of that. So I just think it gives Adonis more chances, it gives Roper more chances, and it gives DeMarcus more chances to, you know, 5, 5, and 5, 10, 5, and 0. I don't know how it's going to play out. You know, kind of depend on how they play within the game, to be honest with you. if they do what they're supposed to do, they'll probably get some time. If they're not playing well, then they probably won't.
Were you surprised all this decision? I mean, given he had started every game?
Not really. You know, we're around guys a lot. We kind of can see some things that are going on that are problematic. And, you know, I like TJ a lot. He's a great kid. He's a hard worker. You know, when you have teams with players so close together all the time, and there's that much competition, and everybody looks around and sees, you know, we're all kind of seem like we're about the same, and there's no clear guy who everybody markedly thinks and understands is a lot better. There's going to be some turnover. I mean, there just is. That's just the way it's becoming now. Not just at college, AAU teams, high school teams. And every kid wants to play 30 minutes. You know, one of the great things that you learn as a coach is, like, give your team a piece of paper and tell them to write down everybody's name and give the amount of minutes that they want everybody to play. Or just give your guy a piece of paper, tell him how many minutes he wants to play. There's only 200 in a game, and you'll get about 400. And there's no way to do it. And, you know, that's good and bad. You know, it'd be nice if we were, you know, in a situation here in my third year where we were older, we had more experienced guys, and we had clear definition between players. We don't. We have 2 seniors, we have no juniors, and we got a whole host of freshmen and sophomores. And so there's a lot of looking around, and it's going to be like that for a while. And guys are going to get unhappy sometimes when they don't play as much, and that's part of it.
Is there anything to be said for playing a big dog like Gonzaga and then, you know, Purdue here and now these guys here for the team growing up a little bit, or, you know, does it really
I think
matter?
it is from the standpoint of, like, lessons learned, because things you're able to get away with in some games you won't get away with when you play this quality of competition. You make a mistake and it's exposed. Mistakes you made in the past, you can kind of, sometimes it doesn't matter, or you can be out of position, you come back and block it. Now you don't block it, you get dunked on. Just different things, speed of the game, as you've talked about, adjusting to certain things and seeing how big and strong and physical people are. It opens your eyes to the highest level of college basketball and what you need to do to be able to be successful at it. So I think, you know, without question, some of these games are very good for those reasons.
Coach, KJ is a guy that you said before the season you needed to really make that next step, and it appears he's done that, averaging, you know, 8 more points a game than he did last year. What have you seen out of him?
Well, we felt like KJ would make a big step this year. We just, you know, we felt like he was making progress through all of last year. A long way to go when he started in terms of learning how to play, but athletically, as I mentioned when we signed him, he's as gifted as anybody athletically I'd seen in a long time. And it's going to be experience, and there's going to be trials and tribulations with it, but there's no doubt he has ability. There's no doubt that he's gotten stronger. There's no doubt his skill level's gotten better, and his confidence is growing, and that's big. He feels better about his game out there. You still want him to be more aggressive than he is sometimes, and that will come again with experience. But I don't think anybody on our staff is surprised at the jump he made, because we expected that.
I think he's made more three-pointers than anybody on the team, too. I mean, does that surprise you?
You know what? He actually, I remember when I watched him in the recruiting process, I thought he had a decent shot. You know, he's a guy who pretty compact, shoots it right here. He was a guy who we felt like with reps and a little bit of tweaking, just a little, he could become a pretty good shooter. And he's not there yet, but, you know, I won't be shocked that, you know, like I wasn't shocked that he made 4 threes in the game against UTEP. You know, he needs a little more time to get his shot off. Maybe then that's the next step, is to get him to be able to shoot shots quicker, make decisions quicker, all those kinds of things. But I think our staff felt like that would come. I know I did when I went and saw him as recruiting him. I thought that he would be able to make 3-point shots.
Brad, I've heard some coaches lately, maybe this isn't necessarily new, but they've lamented the amount of individualism in the game, especially in high school, and that trickling up. How has that affected how you implement your offense and get kids to buy into motion and sharing and that sort of thing?
Yeah, there's times when it's guys want to make plays right away, and so off the first ball screen they're trying to make a play for themselves or the screener, and sometimes all you need to do is advance pass it and remove the defense and make them understand that we need to grind on them a little bit and make them guard a few things. And the same thing off a screen, down screen, where you try to score off the first screen instead of just use it as a way to get the ball moving. But the problem is then you have to trust that you're going to get it back at some point. And guys aren't used to playing that way. They don't play that way very often in very many places anymore. In AAU, a lot of high schools, the ball doesn't move very much. And so a guy wants to make a play when he gets it. He doesn't want to keep it moving and try to keep working and trust that it's going to get back to him again on the second or third side when you feel like you've broken the defense down. So that's not a brand new concept, but it's certainly, it's rearing its head a little bit because of the way the game is played now, a little bit more individualistically.
You talked about how rare it is to get one of these in Arizona like this is. How important is the atmosphere here going to be Saturday night?
It'll be important. You know, we certainly are going to need some help from our fans. We're going to need some support because there's going to be some times when they make runs. There's going to be times when we make some bad plays. You know, and we just have to hope that, you know, that we're playing in a good frame of mind. That we get off to a good start. We have some confidence. Our fans keep us picked up, and that we play well enough to keep our fans with us. And that's on us.
Coach, they scored over 84 times and over 90 a couple of times. Safe to say y'all would prefer to play a little bit lower scoring game? Yeah,
I mean, we're not going to try to score 85 and play in the 80s, but I don't know that we're just going to walk the ball up the court every possession either. You know, I think we've got to try to be opportunistic, and when we have chances to score, we've got to go take them. But we also got to be a little careful and recognize their talent and what they're trying to do.
Trust is pretty fundamental to what you do, isn't it?
Yeah,
For your
absolutely.
players?
Absolutely.